This is an official outreach to all news and media syndicates. We need your help. Americans need your help. Conduits for fair and free markets have betrayed us, and U.S. regulators responsible for policing them have turned a blind eye. 65,000 shareholders have lost the opportunity of choice. I'm talking about the former stock symbol MMTLP and the massive fraud, manipulation, deception, and corruption surrounding it. MMTLP was fraudulently listed on the OTC market on October 2021. Since its listing, it has been heavily shorted, manipulated, and presumed to have been naked shorted in the extent of 300 million to possibly over 1 billion shares, if not more. MMTLP was set to be spun off into a private company on December 14th, 2022, and based upon the approved public S-1 filing, trading would take place, allowing investors to buy or sell openly, and shorts to cover until the final days of trading. It was presumed shorts would have been trapped and share prices would have skyrocketed into the hundreds or thousands per share. On December 9th, 2022, FINRA issued a U3 halt, stopping trading on the final 2 days and locking everyone into their positions permanently without notice, going against the S-1 filing and not even releasing a statement as to why. We know why, but they won't answer. Shareholders, investors of MMTLP, in the blink of an eye, lost investments, retirements, savings, homes, faith and transparency in markets, and a few have even lost their lives in conjunction with this trade. We need your help, and the solution is simple. It can all be solved by one simple request: the public release of the verified blue sheets for MMTLP. The blue sheets will display the total shares in existence as well as any counterfeit shares that do exist. We believe the reason for this unprecedented event was the massive naked shorting of MMTLP, and the blue sheets are the easiest way to reconcile this. Brokers. Investors have reached out to individual brokers, only to be told mixed information, and some can request paper certificates with absurd timeframes and high costs. Most never even come. AST. Connecting with AST will result in connection with a representative on a static-filled line which is hardly able to hold a conversation on, only to be redirected to your broker as they are unable or unwilling to speak on the subject. DTCC. The organization will not take public calls and refer back callers to their individual brokers. FINRA. All callers will get directed directly to the Ombudsman's office, where they can leave a message or file an online complaint. FINRA will not acknowledge the existence of synthetic or naked shorting and will terminate the call promptly when you bring up MMTLP in any capacity. SEC. Contacting the SEC, you are referred directly to the Ombudsman's office, where you're simply encouraged to write a letter to have your matter heard. Enough is enough. As a community of MMTLP shareholders in the thousands, the following acts have been done and documented within the community. 4,000 plus letters to congressional members across the United States, over 36,000 written complaints filed to the SEC, multiple interviews with financial leaders, former CEOs, SEC, brokers, and more, multiple pending lawsuits in several states, and over 1 billion social media mentions of MMTLP in regards to the corruption, deception, and fraud. We will not stop until the blue sheets are released. If there's nothing to hide, then prove it.
Well, listen, and this is going to get us into the MMTLP, which, is the internet is afire with MMTLP. But I don't know if you're talking specifically about that case, Rob. I've read about this case. It does seem awfully strange that a public company can decide to go private, get preferred share prices. Some of them, as you said, without the transparency of knowing if somebody really, if it was naked shorting or whatever it was. And suddenly
That's
now,
exactly what we believe it was.
And now there's a failure to deliver. And you've got a ton of
Yes.
people who grabbed something at, and I think it was maybe $12 a share at one point, and now it's just,
Yes, sir, it was.
it's evaporated. So Jimmy Wright, I'm going to put the question to Dave Lauer, and thank you so much for that call, Jimmy. Dave Lauer, look, I don't want to say there's always fire where there's smoke, but geez, there's an awful lot of smoke here. And even if it's not the thing that everybody thinks it is, a market without transparency on that makes it very plausible that something awry is going on.
Yeah, look, it's a terrible situation. There's no way around it. A lot of individual investors have been hurt by this, and they're angry, and I understand that, and I hate to see it. There's nothing worse to see than this situation.
But let me ask you about this case, this MMTLP, which apparently the company was poised to offer a preferred dividend and the next bridge hydrocarbon. And about 4 days before all of this was going to start to go down, the stock was abruptly halted, then delisted. Investors' money had been frozen. There have been major complaints about fraud, the way the stock was traded. Apparently, there are transcripts between FINRA and the SEC that reveal maybe even regulators were aware of all of this. So how do you explain the injustice of this case?
I think the big issue that and I've certainly heard those concerns, and I think the big issue that we need to take from this is we need to do a better job communicating about what happens when certain actions happen.
What happens with this particular case? Will they release the FINRA blue sheets for MMTLP? I mean, can we get a sort of post-mortem right now? People are talking about this. People say my money is frozen, that they see this as a deliberate attempt, once again, to derail regular investors.
Well, again, when people are having issues like that, I do encourage you to contact the SEC.
They contacted the SEC. Hester, that's why you're in the show. Please help us out here. I mean, this is the runaround. That listen, we were promised dark pools, pay for order flow. All of these things have been thrown up as things that could be changed for the last 3 years. Are you waiting for individual investors to lose interest, to lose all of their money? They're not going to do either of those things, and still, it's the waiting game. The complaints have been filed. When do we get some action on those complaints?
Well, I would say that if you're in an organization like FINRA or DTCC or the SEC or even Options Clearing Commission, and you saw what's going on with MMTLP and Torchlight and MMAT, and you see what's going on a daily basis with smaller companies that are getting destroyed, I think you have a moral obligation to stand up and say something. For example, even if you're in a broker dealer or a market maker or a hedge fund and you're involved in doing this, sooner or later your conscience has to get better of you and say, okay, look, this has to stop. This is not good for our country. It's not good for our people that are living on fixed income, that are in IRAs and 401ks. This is not sustainable in the long run. And I would ask you to come forward in a private manner and let us know what you know. That would be incredible for us to continue to gain knowledge to make sure that the situation with MMTLP is satisfied, but even more importantly, the situation for the entire markets is made transparent, legitimate, and principled.
We have clear proof that fraud has taken place, and 65,000 plus shareholders are suffering for it. We urge you as a member of the journalistic community to help us in any way you can. Stand up for what's right. Fixing the transparency in markets is clear. We need reform, but not today. We need you to call for the release of the blue sheets for MMTLP. Help MMTLP shareholders be made whole. Let it trade.